Oh, something big in there.
Amphipod in there. There's huge amphipod in there.
Yep.
It's not necessarily a negative result. It's fascinating. Something's changed. So now we're just going to try and dig through it and work out what it is that's changed.
I would say this is the deepest scientific dive ever done.
We've come away with some incredible images.
They thought it was a glitch, a software hiccup 11 kilometers down. But when the sonar locked onto something moving, something alive, deep in the horizon trench, the truth shattered everything we thought we knew about the ocean floor.
The deep sea bed may at first appear lifeless, but it's home to a unique cast of mud dwellers.
What kind of creature survives where physics says life should die? And why is it blinking, like it's trying to communicate? Stay tuned, because this footage was never meant to be seen.
So a nautical chart has soundings on it, just, discrete locations, but our map is continuous. We can see the ups and downs, the ridges, the ledges of the sea bottom.
The detection. A deep-sea drone wasn't supposed to find anything moving at 11 kilometers down. At that depth, the pressure is so insane, more than 1,100 atmospheres, that steel buckles like wet cardboard. Most scientists assumed the deepest parts of the Tonga Trench were a silent, motionless graveyard where even the hardiest snailfish would never dare to swim.
Bigger and better and more intricate and more precise tools to bring our curiosity down to the seafloor.
But early 2024 changed all of that. IHOI and Jamstec sent an autonomous Hadal drone, built with titanium alloy, ceramic pressure housings, and NASA-tested navigation tech, straight into the horizon deep. It was designed to map terrain, measure chemical plumes, and collect microbial samples. Nothing more. No one expected a living signal. But then the data spiked. The drone's sonar registered something large, something self-propelled. Its thermal readings flickered. Its accelerometer logged rhythmic pulses, like steady movement, not drifting debris. And the strangest part? The object was moving against the trench's downslope current. That's not something rocks do. It's not something lightweight scavengers do either. At 11,000 meters, every creature we know of, amphipods, holothurians, xenophyophores, moves slowly, almost lazily, because metabolism collapses under the pressure. But this thing moved with intent. Researchers froze when they saw the silhouette in the recovered footage. A dark, elongated line that curled and straightened, like muscle under tension. Some frames showed faint bursts of bioluminescence. Controlled, repeated, almost patterned. And that alone sparked chaos in the scientific community. Because bioluminescent signaling requires specialized organs, complex organs, the kind found in cephalopods, not abyssal microbes. So theories began to swirl. A pressure-evolved cephalopod species, a giant hagfish relative adapted to impossible depths, a Hadal superorganism connected to subduction zone vents. One fringe group even pointed out something weird. The blinking intervals, 1.6 seconds, closely matched the frequency of certain deep-sea communication pulses observed in sperm whales, except whales can't reach anywhere near this depth. Some oceanographers suggested the blinking was a stress reaction. Others thought it was deliberate signaling. A few, only half-jokingly, asked whether we'd just captured the first footage of an unknown apex predator adapted to a world humans weren't meant to see. Whatever it wasn't fish. And it wasn't supposed to exist. But the drone saw it anyway, and now nobody can agree on what comes next. Survival down, there should be impossible, but is it? Here's the thing, life at 11 kilometers down shouldn't even exist. Not like this. At that depth, the pressure is over 16,000 pounds per square inch. That's like balancing a fully loaded 18-wheeler on your thumbnail. It crushes steel, shatters titanium, and breaks most assumptions we've ever made about biology. So how the hell could something move down there, on its own? Let's talk science. To survive this pressure, organisms need TMAO, trimethylamine N oxide, an organic molecule that stabilizes proteins under extreme compression. Deep-sea fish like the snailfish have a lot of it, but studies published in PNAS and Nature Reviews Microbiology suggest there's a biochemical ceiling. Once you go beyond 8,000 or 9,000 meters, cells can't function. Enzymes unravel, membranes fall apart, muscles stop contracting. So, why did this drone spot something moving with power 3 kilometers past that limit? Now, here's where it gets even weirder. A 2022 study from the University of Aberdeen found an unusual microbial mat growing inside a trench crack, alive and metabolically active, at 10,700 meters. The microbes were feeding on hydrogen from serpentinization. a reaction where seawater meets ultramafic rock deep in Earth's crust. Translation: there's a hidden chemical energy system down there. No light, no photosynthesis, just stone-born fuel, a world running on geologic breath. Some researchers now believe that chemosynthetic megafauna could evolve to use this system, a sort of living geothermal feeder tethered to tectonic activity, not food chains. That would explain the movement. Seeking heat, following the mineral trails like invisible veins in the trench. They even suspect this could be part of an ancient biosphere, one that predates surface life entirely. A biological relic, hidden in the folds of Earth's crust, thriving in the dark while continents rose and fell above it. But there's a fringe theory too, that these organisms aren't entirely native. Some theorists, especially those linked to the USN's Deep Submergence Group, point out that several sonar pings in trench zones have shown movement patterns too consistent to be random, controlled, circular, as if patrolling. The footage they didn't want to release. When the drone made it back to the surface, no one expected it to bring back anything more than sediment logs and pressure readings. But buried in its onboard memory, corrupted at first, was 1 minute and 22 seconds of visual data. Glitchy, grainy, blurry in parts, but enough to leave Hoy analysts frozen in disbelief. The first few seconds were unremarkable, sediment drifting, a soft silt cloud kicking up as the drone hovered near a rocky ledge. But then, movement. Not behind the drone, below it. Something shifted in the trench floor, something long, fluid, and oddly symmetrical. Its body curled in on itself, then straightened out again, moving with a kind of slow confidence, not the jerky panic of startled sea life. Frame by frame, analysts tried to enhance it. The shape looked serpentine, but it didn't match any known eel or hagfish. It was too big, too smooth, and it moved with deliberate rhythm, not muscle spasms. Even stranger, at timestamp 00:47, a pattern of lights flickered along its midsection. 3 pulses, a pause, 3 more. That same blinking interval, 1.6 seconds, same as before. Some said it was a defense reaction, but a few analysts whispered something else. Communication. We know some deep-sea species like the firefly squid use light to signal mates, but those live at only 200 to 300 meters. This was over 11,000, and the blinking wasn't random. It repeated every 12 seconds, exactly. Could this thing be using bioluminescence like Morse code? Experts at Japan's JAMSTEC attempted to decode the sequence and, oddly, found a recurring pattern that mimicked known cephalopod distress sequences, but then reversed. Some called it coincidence. Others wondered, what if it wasn't a call for help, but a warning? Adding to the mystery, the sonar overlay showed the creature doing something even more disturbing. It circled back, not away, not fleeing. It followed the drone for approximately 25 seconds, always just at the edge of the camera's frame, as if it knew it was being watched, and wanted to stay just far enough to stay unknowable. The footage was never officially released to the public. Only leaked stills made it online. But those who've seen the full clip say one thing. It didn't look surprised. It looked like it had seen us before. The race to chase what shouldn't exist. The moment the footage leaked, just a few stills, blurry as a dream but chillingly real, the scientific world cracked open. Public forums exploded. Deep-sea biologists debated morphology, skeptics blamed optical illusion, and somewhere in between, NASA stepped in. Fast. That's when Project Orpheus 2 was pulled from Europa simulation status and reassigned to the Tonga Trench. Originally built as a prototype for alien ocean worlds, like Europa, the icy moon of Jupiter, Orpheus 2 is a self-contained, AI-driven exploration pod. It's small, fast, and pressure-resistant to 12,500 meters. Its camera system, based on Mars Curiosity tech. Its software autonomously tracks moving targets, even in complete darkness. In late 2024, after the Horizon Deep incident, WHOI and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory formed an emergency coalition with the Ocean Exploration Trust and NIWA New Zealand. Their goal? Send Orpheus 2 to follow the signal. But this time, they weren't just looking to observe. They were hoping it would lead them somewhere. Here's the part that gave people chills. The sonar loop captured during the original sighting showed an unusual dip in terrain, right as the object vanished. When enhanced, it resembled the mouth of a collapsed vent shaft, a narrow funnel descending even deeper into the trench wall. Some geologists believe it might be part of a subduction-formed lava tunnel, a rare natural corridor created by melting crust. If that's true, it could mean one thing. It didn't just come from the deep, it came from underneath the deep. Now, Orpheus 2 is being outfitted with experimental tech, spectral analyzers, multi-angle sonar, micro-drills, and hydrothermal-resistant thermal mapping arrays. Its new mission profile? If it finds an entry point, go in. Why the urgency? Because seismic activity in that part of the Tonga Trench has spiked. 3 microquakes, 1 hydrothermal surge. And some believe those pulses might not be tectonic at all. They line up with the same timing as the blinking sequence on the footage. Could it be environmental resonance? Could it be something alive? Or worse, could it be something that knows we're coming? The other missions no one talks about. Not everything that vanishes in the ocean gets found again, but when a strange sonar contact appears at 11 kilometers, and then old, forgotten black box data suddenly matches it, people start asking the wrong questions. Or maybe the right ones. Depends who you ask. After Orpheus 2 was greenlit, researchers at WHOI quietly requested archived acoustic records from past deep ocean expeditions, going as far back as the 1960s Sea Lab experiments, and even some old Soviet-era trench dives. What they found? A disturbing string of patterns, blips, waveforms, and sudden pressure anomalies recorded in nearly every major trench exploration across the last 50 years. They'd always been dismissed as instrument glitches, faulty depth readings, pressure warps. But now they weren't just anomalies. They were fingerprints, and in at least 3 separate cases, those anomalies were followed by total signal loss. Case 1. The Abyssal Surveyor, a private British deep-sea drone, lost contact during a mission in the Philippine Trench in 2003. Final logs showed sonar returns of a massive shape, over 10 meters, not just moving, but rotating slowly, as if it were scanning. It vanished 2 minutes later. Case 2. Redfin 4. A Chinese military hydrophone array, picked up what it initially tagged as a whale chorus, until the spacing between calls revealed perfect timing, every 7 seconds. When they triangulated the source, it was over 10,900 meters deep. No whale on Earth dives even half that. Case 3, the most haunting. In 1988, a French marine probe called Luciole went down into the Kermadec Trench. Before it was lost, it transmitted what experts now refer to as a pulse return, like sonar bouncing off something hollow. Engineers say it resembled a chamber, a cavity, possibly natural, or not. It was followed by a high-frequency burst so sharp it blew out the drone's receiver. The convergence zone. After the 5th anomaly, marine geophysicist Dr. Leona Moretti from Italy's National Research Council noticed something odd. When she overlaid the locations of unexplained trench drone losses, Tonga, Kermadec, Mariana, Philippine, Kuril-Kamchatka, and layered in the recorded sonar signatures from each site, something emerged. A pattern. Each trench incident, spanning decades, nations, and thousands of nautical miles, occurred along a deep subduction arc that formed a rough crescent on the Pacific plate. But dead center in that arc, in a seemingly empty patch of open ocean, was a location no one had ever thought to check. No recorded missions, no seismic stations, no mapping. It was a blind spot. They called it the convergence zone, an unmapped depression just east of the Tonga Trench, about the size of Manhattan.
The intertropical convergence zone is the area near the equator, where winds from the northern and southern hemispheres converge, resulting in increased precipitation.
Not a trench, not a ridge, not a fault line. But there was something strange about it. Satellite gravimetric data showed anomalous mass fluctuations, as if something heavy was moving inside the Earth's crust, below the sediment, almost like something alive, shifting. And then came the freak detection. In August 2024, during a NOAA hydroacoustic survey aimed at tracking whale migration paths, a strange low-frequency hum was recorded exactly above the convergence zone. It wasn't natural. It had harmonics, structured like music but far too slow. Each note lasted over 12 seconds. Some experts said it resembled tectonic tremor, but NASA's data analysis team found subtle modulations that matched the blinking patterns seen in the drone footage from Horizon Deep. Let that sink in. A blinking creature 11 kilometers down, matching the acoustic rhythm of a humming signal from a trench hundreds of miles away. That's not biology. That's coordination. Some researchers now believe these zones are part of an ancient geological network, veins running under the ocean floor, capable of transmitting chemical, magnetic, or even acoustic signals between extreme depths. Others, more daring, have asked the darker question, what if we're not just dealing with a species? What if it's a system? Signals in the darkness. As if the blinking wasn't eerie enough, deep-sea monitoring stations along the Pacific Ring began noticing something else. Light. Not bright flashes, not natural flickers, but bioluminescence behaving unnaturally, in patterns, grids, arcs. The first major incident happened off the coast of Guam. A research team aboard the RV Kilo Moana had deployed a deep-sea lander rig to study scavenger behavior. It carried low-light cameras and chemical sensors. But when the footage came back, there was no fish, no crustaceans, just 1 hour of footage showing a curtain of blue light rippling across the abyss, not drifting, moving horizontally, as if tracking the lander. That same month, a Japanese cabled observatory near the Nankai Trough picked up a similar phenomenon.
This language of light is so widespread here that these signals are probably the commonest form of communication.
Its photo detectors logged a series of luminous pulses, spaced 9 meters apart, stretching across the seafloor for over 100 meters. Too symmetrical for plankton swarms, too coordinated for random organisms. It looked built. The strangest part? The light didn't act like light. When researchers enhanced the frames, the glow never reflected off nearby rocks or particles. It was as if the source wasn't emitting photons, but something else. Bioluminescence, sure, but maybe not entirely biological. That's when an unsettling theory surfaced, one that pulled in biophysicists, AI specialists, and even exobiologists. What if these signals aren't just from life forms, but from something mimicking life? Some believe these blinking entities may not be traditional organisms at all. They could be biomechanical constructs, hybrid systems using organic components to survive trench conditions, but operating under coordinated logic. Not machines, not animals, something in between. This theory draws from real science. In 2023, Harvard's Weiss Institute developed soft-bodied robots powered by living muscle tissue. Theoretically, such tech could evolve naturally, especially in deep-sea vents, where minerals, heat, and amino acids mix in endless, violent chemistry. The voices in the deep. It started as a sailor's tale, a low-frequency hum, a sound so deep and haunting that you don't just hear it, you feel it, like something ancient breathing beneath your ribs. For decades, deep-sea submersible crews have reported strange underwater noises, hums, growls, and what some described as mechanical moaning. Most were brushed off as tectonic activity, but recently, that changed. In 2020, an Australian oceanographic team operating near the Kermadec Trench deployed an experimental passive acoustic array meant to track bathypelagic predators like giant squid. What it picked up instead chilled them, a vocal pattern that resembled structured syllables, repeating every 4.3 minutes for over 6 hours. It wasn't whale song, it wasn't sonar, it had form, rhythm, and even, as one researcher put it, an emotional arc, like language stripped of words. A similar phenomenon had already been recorded by NOAA back in 1997, in what became famously known as the bloop, a loud, ultra-low frequency sound detected across thousands of kilometers. At the time, it was attributed to icequakes. But now, with more sensitive equipment, scientists are wondering if that explanation was just a cover for something they couldn't explain. But here's where it gets weirder. In 2015, a pilot aboard the DSV limiting factor submersible descended into the Puerto Rico Trench and reported hearing what he called murmurs.
Where a mysterious trench is thought to plunge to a staggering 27,500 feet.
Not through radio, not through speakers, but inside the hull itself. Vibrations he swore sounded like whispers, soft but undeniably patterned. He logged it as a psychological anomaly, but 2 other crew members heard it too. The pattern matched. Every 1.6 seconds, just like the blinking, just like the acoustic pulses around the convergence zone. Marine neurologists now believe that these sounds may be affecting human physiology, possibly interfering with inner ear equilibrium or neural resonance. Some speculate it's a form of deep-frequency communication not meant for us, but detectable because of how sound travels in high-pressure water. In short, we're picking up transmissions not meant to be heard above. One rogue theory published anonymously in a declassified military journal even asked, what if the deep hum isn't noise at all? What if it's memory? Or worse, what if it's calling something back? Hit subscribe and click the card on screen to dive even deeper.